and welcome to another session of Let's Get Real with Mona. That's me, Mona Naidoo. And thank you for being here with me and joining me today. Yes, in these sessions, I share stories and teachings to inspire you to turn your dreams into reality. And yes, I am an abundant living guide, women's empowerment mentor, a human behavior specialist, a teacher of sacred wisdom, an advocate for humanity, and a soul dancer. Yes, I realize that I've got to start adding that into my profile because soul dancing is something very unique. And yes, I'm going to be bringing that out more in the open, and watch out in the space because I'll be sharing more about that in the days to come. Now for today's session, we're talking about freedom. Yes, all about freedom, and I'm going to share with you what freedom means to me and how a lack of freedom can actually negatively impact and prevent us from turning our dreams into reality. Now, I'm going to encourage you to stay till the end if you would love to fly as freely as a bird flies and align to your abundance. Now, the 27th of April is Freedom Day in South Africa. Yes, in 1994, the 27th of April was the first day that we had, was the day that we had our first democratic elections in South Africa. So every year since then, we celebrate Freedom Day. And I thought, how apt for our conversation this week. But I'm going to take the freedom a bit more to you and make it more personal to you and me as individuals before we look at the collective. Now just think about this. The Oxford Dictionary defines freedom as in, well, two ways. The one is a state of not being enslaved or imprisoned. And the other one is the freedom being the power or the right to act, to speak, or to think as one wants to. And I guess if one looks at spiritual freedom, it goes further. It's not just about doing whatever you want, but doing the things that you are guided to do, in alignment with God, the divine. It's acting from a place of conscious awareness that everything you do impacts everyone and everything around you. Now for me, when I think about freedom, I think about freedom as being as free as a bird. I spend so much time when I see a bird. I spend time watching a bird fly. I spend time watching the birds going into a pond of water. I watch birds just building nests, because for me, if I had to describe what freedom is, it would be when I see a bird up in the sky, just free to fly, to swoop down, to walk on the ground. It can go anywhere it really feels like it wants to go. And it can glide. That's the sense of freedom for me. And I think that's why I love flying. And I'm talking about in a plane. That's why I love flying so much. Because it really gives me that sense of freedom to be, to have, to create, to express, to do, right? Because here's the thing. When we are aligned to our soul, when we listen to our soul's guidance, that's where true freedom comes in. If you are like me, we live in a society, we grew up in communities or families where there was always someone telling you what to do, how to do it, who to be, what to study, where to go, how to behave. You know what I'm talking about. And if you took one step out of that little box that was created for you, you were criticized, you were judged, you were ostracized. And then what happens? are we truly free to be? You know, we think about this country, South Africa, and we think about freedom, freedom from apartheid, freedom to do whatever we want to do, freedom to go live wherever we want to live. But what a myth that is, really. Because true freedom comes from within. True freedom, no one can imprison us because it's actually sitting within us. You know, we may have a constitution in whichever country you may be living in, and I'm talking about South Africa here. But the question is, are we really free to do whatever we want to? Well, just think about this platform that you're watching this on. Am I really free to say whatever it is I want to say and use whatever words I want to use? No. My channel or my page will be shut down because someone's controlling us, right? So yes, when we look at the things that are outside of our control, yes, we can be controlled. My speech is censored. My expression is censored. But can they actually stop me from dreaming, from creating in the 5D realm until it's ready to come down into the 3D realm? No. And I guess that's why I love this quote by Nelson Mandela. And this is what he said, right? As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. Right? Now just think about that. Right? When we think about why our dreams don't turn into reality, why we may have had goals for years and years and years, and it seems like we get to a point and then nothing materializes. Have you ever taken a moment to see what baggage you're carrying? Have you ever taken a moment to see how you have put yourself in shackles? Or how you have imprisoned you? And you're sitting inside the prison and lock the gate from the inside and holding the key in your hand, but you aren't using it to free yourself. So just like Nelson Mandela, he may have been walking out this gate towards his freedom, but like he says, if he didn't choose to leave behind the bitterness and the hatred, well, you can imagine what would have happened, right? What would have occurred for us as a country instead of us coming together and having a peaceful transition at that time when we became the democratic South Africa. Imagine if there was bitterness and hatred, right? Do you think we would have come into a space of peace and togetherness and reconciliation? No. Now the same is for us. When we are holding on to the past, when we are holding on to pain, when we are holding on to anger, when we have some vengeful thoughts against people who have done harm to us, what do you think happens? We aren't free. And I guess that's why it's so important for us to realize that a lot of the things in our life don't materialize. And there could be various reasons. But very often, we are holding ourselves back through our thoughts. You know, it's either we are thinking negatively about someone or some event or something, or someone may have judged us or criticized us or not supported us with something, and those thoughts keep going in a loop. And you'd be surprised about how negative thoughts actually imprison us, hold us back. Because every time we want to move forward, the negative thought is like a hook and it pulls us back, and it's pretty strong. And the longer you keep that negative thought, the stronger that hook becomes, and it pulls you back, and it pulls you back further and further away from your dream. And I guess this is why it's so important to have a coach, to have a mentor, to have a guide who can lead you down the path of light. Now, I share all this with you because, yes, even up until now, I have to be so aware that I'm not giving a negative thought more power. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? You could walk into a room and everybody in there could be telling you, how wonderful you look. But there may be one person who may just make a snide remark about how you look. And it doesn't matter if 20 people gave you favorable comments. We give so much weight to that one negative comment, right? You know what I'm talking about. You've done it. I've done it, right? We all have done it at some point or the other. And that goes around in your head, in a loop, in a loop. Now just think about this. You are doing something at work. Everybody at work perhaps is congratulating you. And then you come home and you don't receive the same acknowledgement that you receive in your workplace or your business. And what happens? That person, or the few people that weren't responsive in the way that you would love them to be responsive, we keep that in our field. We keep that in our memory, in our thoughts, and we keep playing that. And then what do you think happens to our dreams? Well, it's in the opposite direction of where we are. We keep imprisoning ourselves. And for me, it's like this, I've been a prosecutor in court. So for me, it's always like we keep pronouncing the sentence. It's almost like we give ourselves a death sentence. We keep giving ourselves an imprisonment, a sentence of imprisonment, day in and day out. So we don't even give ourselves a chance to free ourselves, right? And I guess it's important to be aware of this. We want freedom for everyone in the world. How can everyone in the world experience freedom to do, to have, to be, to create, to experience what they want to, if we don't even feel that within? And I guess this is what spiritual wealth is about. We get to connect with those things within us. We get to connect the freedom within us, because remember, it's first within, then it manifests on the outside. So imagine if we all connected to true freedom, spiritual freedom, freedom which is within, which no one can take from us, no one can imprison. Because even if we are physically in a prison, no one can lock your heart except you. And by now, if you've been listening to my teachings for a while, you know that I talk about the heart and how important it is for us to align to our abundance by opening and expanding our heart. How important it is for us to live the life of our dreams by having an open, expanded heart, by allowing our soul to sit in the driver's seat of our lives, right? Because that's what true freedom is about. It really is about asking your ego, and please understand, we do not criticize our ego. We do not make our ego bad. We just choose now that our lives have evolved. As humanity, we have evolved to such a state where our ego has a role. But right now, what's being called for in the world is our soul to lead the way. And the more we allow our soul to guide us, that's when we experience true freedom. Now, I've noticed that in every area of my life. When I don't choose to listen to my soul, well, I create havoc and chaos in my life. And it feels like I'm in prison when I do that. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And you realize that when you listen to the guidance, when you allow yourself to express who you are, when you say the things that really matter to you, when you share how you're really feeling. It doesn't matter what the situation is, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, everything flows. And I guess that's freedom. Look at how a river flows. When the water is just being allowed to flow and move along, and there's no obstacles in the way by the negative thoughts, the negative thinking, the self-criticism, the self-judgment, the beliefs that are sitting in the unconscious, right? That's what stops the flow. That's what stops us in our paths. That's what stops and blocks our abundance, the flow of our abundance. So I'd love to hear from you. How do you experience freedom? What symbol is a symbol of freedom for you? Like I said, for me, it's birds. And I always believe, like, one day in my imagination, I'm always flying like a bird, right? Because that's the essence of freedom for me. To be so free, you're so light that you can just glide in the sky. And I guess that's what soul dancing is about. It's not about caring about what anyone sees, what steps you're doing or how you're moving. It's connecting with your soul. It's the freedom to move as your soul wants you to move. Like with me, my soul asked me to dance out of my legal career into a space that's been totally foreign, totally new to me, unknown to me. But I danced my way. I followed. It was scary. Absolutely. When you experience true freedom, when you step in there, you put your toe in and then you jump back out. Because it really is unfamiliar territory. And I guess for me, we cannot say we want everybody in the world to be free when we aren't even willing to give that to ourselves. So right now, which area in your life do you feel that you have imprisoned yourself? Because maybe you took someone else's judgment of you and made it the gospel truth. You've taken someone else's limitation of you and made it your reality. So where in your life would you love to experience freedom? And what's one thing that you can do to create movement and freedom in that area of your life? So I'd love to know from you, and I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to know what resonated with you today. Because remember, until we are all free, until we are free within, all of us are not free. And I'd love to leave you with this quote from Nelson Mandela, where he says, "The truth is that we are not yet free. We have merely achieved the freedom to be free, the right not to be oppressed. We have not taken the final step of our journey, but the first step on a longer and even more difficult road. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. The true test of devotion to freedom is just beginning." So I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts about freedom, your thoughts about spiritual freedom, and what it is that you are doing to remove the shackles that you have placed on yourself, and what are your action steps in experiencing more freedom in your life. So until next time, just as a note, I'm not sure when my next video will be or my next teaching, because I'm going to be taking some time to be free and to fly like a bird in the sky. So until next time, ciao for now.